Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. These are unprecedented times with the global spread of COVID-19 that requires that we take immediate action. As you are aware, President Trump announced guidelines for America, 15 days to slow the spread. Our state will be implementing additional measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. As you all know, we have been very proactive in working social distancing in our efforts to ensure that the impact of COVID-19 here is minimized. These actions may seem extreme to some of you, and we know that it will have a negative impact on our economy, but we are confident that taking aggressive actions now will allow us to have quicker recovery when the crisis is over. With Hawaii's aloha spirit and hospitality, we have always prided ourselves on sharing our islands and culture with the world. However, with the threat of COVID-19, we need to take care of our people and communities first. I am strongly encouraging our guests to postpone their vacations for at least the next 30 days and reschedule it for a later date. This will help us to deal with the virus first, protect the integrity of our destination, and enable us to welcome our visitors back to Hawaii soon. We will be taking strong measures to secure our islands. Effective this Friday, screening of all passengers disembarking cruise ships will begin. This will include thermal screening and interviews conducted by physicians. We are aware that while planned cruises have been put on hiatus for 30 days, we do believe that implementing these measures at this point in time is important to our communities. Our airports are working on implementation plans to implement screening of our arriving visitors as we anticipate having this in place soon. Experts continue to say that social distancing is the most effective way to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. We continue to encourage everyone to practice good hygiene. If you are ill, stay at home. If your children are ill, keep them at home. With this in mind, we are also directing the following actions. Social gatherings should be limited to groups of no more than 10, following the CDC guidelines. All bars and clubs should be closed. Restaurants should adjust their operations to pivot to drive-through, takeout, pickup, or delivery services only. Closures of theaters and entertainment centers and visitor attractions should commence. We encourage everyone to avoid any discretionary travel. We should suspend services and activities in places of worship that gathers 10 or more people. High-risk individuals should stay at home and take additional precautions. We are asking everyone to not visit nursing homes or retirement or long-term care facilities. If someone in your household has tested positive for COVID-19, the entire household should be in isolation. Stability is important during these times and this unprecedented situation. We have taken action in the following areas. All utilities have been directed to take necessary measures to ensure that they can continue to operate in the normal course of this outbreak. Director Hara has a full authority to determine what constitutes critical infrastructure or essential services that will continue operations. This includes utilities, fuel producers, shipping facilities and industry, financial institutions, financial services, telecommunications companies, wholesalers and distributors, grocery stores, pharmacies, gas stations, and other industries that are vital to our community. For both the utilities and essential services, government resources and support can be deployed as necessary to continue their operations. We have eliminated the 1-week waiting period for unemployment insurance benefits so that those who are unemployed can receive benefits immediately. The Office of Consumer Protection is working with its landlord-tenant center and effective already under the emergency provisions. Applicable provisions can be implemented to protect tenants. During the emergency, the following additional steps are being discussed with our community's business partners and nonprofit organizations to maintain stability for our families. We are working to ensure employees have benefits, even if employees are not at work. We are working to halt evictions for non-payment of rent. We are working to halt foreclosures. We are working with public and private utility providers to ensure that services are not shut off during these critical times for critical utilities such as electricity, gas, water, internet service, landline telephone service, and cell phone services. The state is also taking action to focus on the next 15 days. As governor, I have always directed that we should lead by action. All cabinet level directors have been directed to review their departments and identify the following: essential functions which will be required. People who conduct the essential functions will be required to report to work. Non-essential employees that are able to work remotely via telework or other technology will be working from home. Non-essential workers who are unable to work remotely via telework or other technology would be assigned to be at home. They could be reassigned on other work that is within their job description and classification that could be done via telework. For the next 15 calendar days, I'm directing departments to have all non-essential staff stay home. Essential workers will continue to report to work. All employees will continue to be paid and will still be eligible for sick leave, vacation, and other benefits. Every employee should look to their respective department for detailed instructions on how this will be implemented. We are also banning all non-essential travel for state workers, including travel to the neighbor islands. And anyone who travels will be required to complete a 14-day self-quarantine. These provisions do not apply to the Department of Education. As you are aware, we had an announcement concerning the public schools a day ago. We continue to look at additional services. The libraries, state libraries will be closing temporarily so that we can assess and evaluate operations to maintain social distancing. There will be no fees for late returns on library online resources. there will be no fees for late returns, and the library's online resources will still be available. All events at the State Capitol and the State Art Museum, tours at Washington Place has been suspended. Events at Aloha Stadium and the Convention Center have been canceled for the next 30 days. The Department of Land and Natural Resources is closing parks, offices with in-person access, and those that include large gatherings. It is essential that we keep our government operations and services continuing during this time, but still keep all of our employees and our community safe and healthy. We do expect that there will be more stringent actions that will be required in the days to come as we watch the COVID-19 pandemic unfold. We continue to look at other options to improve social distancing so that we can truly flatten the curve of this epidemic. I would like to continue to emphasize that it is our entire community's responsibility on how we can work together to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. Sick individuals should stay at home. They should not be at work, or they should not be at school. Wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizers, limit interactions with groups of people larger than 10. We encourage all of our businesses to look at telework and ensuring social distancing in their work environments. I am confident the one thing that Hawaii has always been the #1 community on the planet is working together and coming together to help each other get through the most difficult challenges that our community faces. And with that, I am open to take any questions.
Governor, the CDC issued these recommendations over the weekend to bring the gatherings of 50 people or more. President Trump said the same thing yesterday with 10 people or more. Why has it taken it so long for you to implement these things?
Well, they did announce it yesterday, I believe, and certainly this is a day later, and we are certainly advocating that it be reduced to 10.
The CDC came out with these guidelines on Sunday.
Well, I apologize for that. You know, we are rolling it out as soon as we can.
Are you mandating for bars to close, or is this a strong suggestion?
Yeah, we are directing bars to close. We do believe that opportunities for individuals to gather can be opportunities to spread the virus. So we want all gatherings of more than 10 individuals to stop.
What happens if they don't vote?
You know, we are asking for the community's participation and support. You know, obviously, if someone chooses to disobey the orders, then we'll deal with it appropriately.
Governor, have you made any cost estimates of your call to ask people to suspend travel here for 30 days?
No, I do not have any cost, but you know, at this point in time, it's about the health and safety of our community. We do know that there will be significant impact. We know that COVID-19 has already caused significant economic activity in our community and around the world. You know, our focus at this point in time is really the health of our community. We believe that we are asking our visitors to reschedule their trips to the islands because we want to focus on what's important, which is the health and safety of our community.
So are the bars and are these mandates for bars and restaurants, is it a mandate? Are you looking?
Well, we are directing them to implement these actions. You know, as I said before, we will work. You know, we're encouraging them to implement it as soon as possible. We obviously know that things don't happen instantaneously, and there would be a need for businesses and organizations to implement actions necessary.
why are DOE employees not included in the state's non-essential stay-home directive? And then at what point will schools be closed?
Once again, and as we had said in the previous press conference, we do believe that our public schools are important and that there are many cascading impacts of closing schools. We believe that having schools that practice appropriate social distancing methods to create a safe and stable learning environment for our children is very important in this time for our entire community.
Can you give
So-
some examples of social distancing in the classroom?
So certainly it's a couple different things, right? It is about changing schedules, for example, recess. Rather than having the entire school out at recess at the same time, it would be assigning different classes to different parts of the campus, staggering recess, staggering lunch periods so that those that would gather in the cafeteria would be significantly smaller. We also are looking at having lunch in the classrooms, for example, as an option to ensure that we don't have clusters. Remember, we're asking parents if their children are sick to stay at home. Parents should be taking the temperatures of their children every day once school reopens so that we can determine whether their children are ill, and if they are ill, we should keep them at home. They would be implementing policies and procedures so that if a child shows up at school and they are ill or they have a temperature, then we would be able to separate them from the rest of the children so that we can reduce the risk of infection.
Back to the bar thing.
Yeah.
So this is why we wanted to give the 4 extra days. So
Yes,
we can come
yes.
up with a more comprehensive.
Right, I mean, and as we had announced yesterday, or it could have been the day before yesterday, the 4 additional days with extending the spring break was for the purpose that we can work through the details of how we would implement a school day with appropriate social distancing throughout the entire system.
Teachers Union wants a 3-week break and then to take stock after those 3 weeks are over. Do you have a...
Well, I mean, I haven't had a chance to speak with the teachers union. We're really focused at where we are right now and the actions that we are required to take to really reduce the risk to COVID-19 and really expand and flatten the curve. Certainly we will be talking with all the unions as we work through this. We believe that we need to take this action at this point in time. And certainly, and you all recognize that COVID-19 response is changing by the hour, virtually every day. And so certainly we are looking at and looking at the different mechanisms that we can implement to reduce the risk to our community, and most importantly, really prepare for return to normal once things all around the world has settled.
A lot of the teachers are saying it's virtually impossible to do social distancing in the classrooms, especially the overcrowded classrooms. Are you thinking about extending that spring break even past that March 30th?
The plan at this point in time is really to resume instructional services on March 30th. If there's a change that's necessary, we will be making the appropriate announcements.
Will teachers be required to come even if they don't feel comfortable being in close spaces with so many people on those 4 days and then beyond that?
There's a lot of activities that we'll be taking to mitigate the risk to all of our public servants. And it is things about ensuring that all students' temperatures are taken and that we have appropriate measures so that should a child appear at school who has a fever or is sick, that we can separate them from the other children and reduce the risk of infection. Department is working with the union and all of the teachers all around the state to talk about what changes need to be made, what procedures need to be put in place so that we can have a learning environment that is safe, stable, and most importantly, allows our students to finish the school year in an appropriate timetable.
Would the state be willing to implement screenings at school?
You know, certainly there's a lot of different things that are possible. The Department of Education will be working through all of those scenarios. You know, not every school might be the same procedures because some things work for larger schools that don't work for smaller schools. You know, there's a lot of variables in the system. And so certainly we are empowering principals and other educational professionals to really look at what the needs of our community is and determine what appropriate processes and policies need to be put in place.
So just yesterday, you were saying that, you know, the state's not in a position yet where you need to close bars and restaurants, and about 2 hours ago.
I didn't mention bars and restaurants, but I did say that obviously the situation is changing hour by hour. You know, we are seeing what's happening across the country and we're making assessments. You know, talking to community members, businesses, residents, just talking about concerns that they have and what action would be appropriate. We do believe that closing bars and restaurants, having restaurants focus on takeout, delivery, drive-through, is the appropriate action to take at this point in time.
What are the consequences? I know you said you'll deal with it if they don't close, but what exactly, do they get fined? Are they forced to close? What exactly?
No, you know, we are encouraging businesses to comply with these directives. Obviously, we're really focused on what action can we take proactively to reduce the impact of COVID-19. You know, we are not going to be focused on activities that's necessary to deal with those who choose to be non-compliant. But I do know that the history of our community has always been that people respond to the call to serve the community and act in a responsible way.
Director Harrow, has Hayima identified products that should be rationed in grocery stores yet?
No, not yet. I mean, we're working closely. One thing we actually started working with the legislature is looking at those high demand items like toilet paper and cleaning solutions, you know, like Clorox. Setting up these box stores at different locations. We're trying to look with working with some of the universities and schools that are closed, and even the Aloha Stadium. So these high demand items, people can go there rather than clogging up the Costco's and the Sam Clubs and the other markets. Also looking at possibly setting up times, maybe the first 2 hours of the day, the business day, for just the kupuna and the high-risk people. So I think you guys remember, right? The one thing I said is we need to move at the pace of an unprecedented crisis. And sometimes a flash to bang, we're in here from this morning trying to come up with these policy decisions and not really having the time to work all of things out, right? So sometimes we've got to make that tough decision and try to catch up as fast as possible. So that's why, you know, we may say something yesterday, and then today it's totally different, 180 degrees.
Governor,
I just would want to ask for the community support. You know, there has been no impact to the supply chain. You know, all of our grocers and retailers continue to receive the things that they order normally in the course of business. So there is no need to overreact. There's no need to hoard or accumulate resources in the sense that you believe that we won't be able to get essential food and other items in the normal course of distribution of our retailers.
Governor, we keep seeing a lot of empty shelves out there. I mean, it gets worse by the day. What is going on?
Well, we would certainly encourage everybody to think of their neighbors when they go shopping, to really focus on what they need at that time rather than stocking up for the long haul. We do ask people to be prepared as part of our emergency preparedness for 14 days, and that's still the guideline. But, you know, clearly many people are purchasing way more than the 14-day supply that we would recommend that they have on hand.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention that Hawaii, we have, a just-in-time supply chain. So generally, that means that the stores have about 1 to 3 days of supplies, and we don't have the giant warehouses. So when people started hoarding and this mass buy occurred, that supply chain couldn't catch up. But there's nothing wrong with the current supply chain.
Governor, what is your message about the tour industry giving Kualoa Ranch and visitors use of those kinds of tours?
Well, I mean, we're suggesting that all activities shut down for the next 15 days. We do believe that it's important that the entire country really be taking aggressive action to spread the impact of COVID-19. It is about keeping our community safe. Yes, there is an economic impact to that, but we are focused on the needs of our community at this point in time.
What about the hotels? Should they close to discourage visitors from coming because a lot of them are taking advantage of the extremely low prices?
I have had conversations with the visitor industry, and they are making adjustments as appropriate. I mean, I think you'll have to ask the hotels about what they're doing. We certainly are encouraging them to limit the interactions. We do believe that we should keep group activities to 10 or less. There are different ways that you can operate a hotel within those constructs, and we certainly would encourage them to support our efforts to increase social distancing and help us eradicate or delay the impacts of COVID-19 in our community.
And is the state prepared and capable of handling the huge influx of unemployment claims that are expected to come in?
Certainly, we are prepared. We're staffing up for that. We did transition our unemployment claim process to be online actually several years ago. And so certainly individuals can file for their claims online right now as we speak.
For the cruise ship thermal scans and then also the airport ones, these were things that people were asking about a month ago, and I thought we had determined that that was not a possibility. What has changed in the past couple of days or weeks to have that come online, and the department is running that?
We certainly are looking at and have heard from the community. We recognize the concerns they have that visitors coming to the islands have brought the COVID-19 here. So we are looking at what actions can we take within the state's authority to better protect our community. So certainly, the challenge is that during normal conditions, we have tens of thousands of visitors transiting through our airports each and every day. And the focus has been on how can we design and implement a program that would allow us to screen incoming visitors in the most productive way possible. Same thing with cruise ships. We recognize that our authority is limited. We do know that we can provide screening when they depart the ships. Certainly, we are working with the Coast Guard and Customs and Border Patrol to really coordinate activities. They are still responsible for travelers who are foreign nationals, and so we are working with Customs and CDC officials on the screening that we want to implement, but we are also applying state resources. We understand that our community is concerned about those off of cruise ships and those coming off of airlines, and we want to make sure that if they are sick, that they should not be coming into our community with some information guidelines to ensure that we can keep our local community safe.
So I just want to clarify something you said earlier. Did you say state workers who travel to the neighbor islands And when they come back, we'll go under self.
Also enter self-quarantine. You know, we do know that travel helps to spread the virus, so we are eliminating all discretionary travel. So, you know, there are essential functions that need to occur, and so we are obviously even discouraging that, but if it does have to happen, then 14-day self-quarantine is important to stop the spread of virus, should it happen.
Any other questions? Thank you, everybody. Again, we'll keep you up to date, as everyone has mentioned, is rapidly evolving.